right, welcome back, everybody, to Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber, and thanks for joining us. This is our live Q&A session right now on the Lori Vallow Daybell trial. We are in verdict watch. We are waiting to see what the jury will come back with in this monumental case of the Doomsday cult mother who is facing several charges of murder and conspiracy to commit murder, all in connection with the deaths of her two children, J.J. Vallow, Tylee Ryan, as well as the death of her current husband and co-defendant, Chad Daybell, Tammy Daybell. Now, as we wait for a verdict, we are taking your questions about this case. Anything you want to ask, now is the time to ask it. You can submit them on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, but it's not going to be me just sitting here answering your questions. There's no fun in that. So let me bring right now Law and Crime correspondent Gigi McKelvey, who is outside of the Ada County Courthouse in Boise, Idaho. And I'm also joined by Law and Crime's very own Terry Austin to talk about this. Gigi, I'll start with you. What a day. So closing arguments have wrapped up. I'm first going to start with my own question. Anything you're reading about when the jury might come back? How long have they been deliberating? Do we have any sense of even how long they might go tonight?
Yes, we have a little bit of insight. They started deliberating, I think about 2:18 is when, or 2:13 is when they got the case. And normally we end our days at 3:30 here, but the jury has decided to go later tonight. And I've heard a mention of supper being brought in, been told that they are motivated. So it's quite possible, you know, we could go later into the evening and maybe have a verdict. I think that after 6 weeks of sitting in, hearing this evidence, you know, it's just going to be a matter of taking a vote and seeing if everybody's on board and looking through some things. But I think this is going to be a quick one, Jesse. All
right. Who's ready to take some questions? I am. Terry, I'm going to go with you. Danielle Peck from Facebook asks, the defense called no witnesses to the stand and Vallow herself didn't testify. They claim that the prosecution didn't make their case. Is there actually a chance that Lori Vallow Daybell could be found not guilty? Terry?
There is a chance, but I think it's a slim chance. And I think one of the problems, and he pointed it out in the question, is they did not bring any witnesses. They could have brought some experts on the case. They could have definitely had someone to refute what others were saying. All of the friends and family who testified, they could have had other people who said that she's a good person and she wasn't like this before she met Chad, but instead they simply cross-examined and they didn't put witnesses and she didn't testify. So I think the likelihood that she gets off is very low. I think there's a greater likelihood that she will be convicted, frankly, of all charges.
Okay, I know there's been some debate about whether or not she's actually going to be convicted with respect to the conspiracy charge to Tammy Daybell. Did the prosecution prove beyond a reasonable doubt that she plotted to kill this woman? That we can have a whole conversation on. Gigi, I have a question that's specific to you. This is from Teresa and Bobby Albertson from Facebook. And by the way, just want to thank everybody for submitting your questions on here because we really do appreciate it and we hope to give you the best answers that we can. So Teresa and Bobby Albertson ask, Gigi, do you sit and wait at the courthouse for the verdict? I heard it's first come, first serve. Thank you for all the hard work you do bringing us this information.
Well, thank you, guys. I appreciate that. Right now, the courtroom is about 3/4 of the way full, so those of us that have tickets, we can go back up tonight. Tomorrow, it's a free-for-all. We all laugh about we're going to trip people up when verdict's announced to get in that courtroom because once that courtroom hits capacity, they're shutting the doors, and then we all run down to the overflow room. But it's, you know, the one thing to consider is that verdict is live streamed, so people aren't going to break their backs to get here when they can watch it from the comfort of their own home. And, yeah, so there's just so much anticipation around here right now. I think a little relief. One little fun fact, Larry Woodcock is up there in the courtroom right now with his iPad playing JJ's favorite songs, We Will Rock You by Queen and Thunderstruck by AC/DC. And he's smiling, you know, just a relief that at least this part's over and now we wait. So it's nice to see Larry a little lighthearted and enjoying some sweet memories of JJ.
Gigi, I want to stick with you for a second because this is an interesting question, something that I addressed earlier on in the week. This is from @NLB3121 from Twitter. Is it 100% certain that Alex Cox died of natural causes? Has there been any talk about reviewing his death, which I think is such an interesting question considering the evidence has suggested he is the person that carried out the killings. There is even evidence that he predicted he was going to die. He said that he was the fall guy. That's according to Zulema Pastenes, his widow. And then he suddenly dies. We thought it was from blood clots. Tammy Daybell, at one point in time, we thought she died of natural causes. her body was exhumed. Now we learn that she died from asphyxiation at the hands of another. Chad Daybell is charged with her actual murder. So what do you think, Gigi? Any talks about looking a little bit further into the death of Alex Cox?
Well, that ship has sailed, Jesse. It was ruled natural. The FBI was in attendance because the day he dropped over dead, they were actually having an all-agency meeting about this very case. Now, the FBI did attend his autopsy. It was deemed natural, and he was cremated. So I don't think there's any chance of that being overturned, but I will die on the hill that that man did not just happen to drop over dead the day after they exhumed Tammy Daybell's body. I don't know what he did, but apparently it wasn't easy to detect.
I don't blame you for that thinking, considering everyone died under very mysterious circumstances and very convenient time. I don't say that. I say that in terms of what did we hear during the course of this case. If you believe the prosecution's narrative that Chad and Lori wanted these people dead, they died like right after. They died according to their timeline. Now, this is a great question, Terry, something that I have theorized as well. At TurnKim31818 from Twitter, do you think that Lori has been trying to protect Chad, which is why no defense? I think my opinion is that she might have told her attorneys, listen, do what you need to do to fight my case, to say the prosecution hasn't met their burden, but don't throw Chad under the bus. Don't throw Alex Cox under the bus. He's still the love of my life. I don't want to jeopardize his case. What do you think, Terry?
I don't think that so much. I mean, we didn't see any evidence during the trial, but during the closings, there was some pointing of the finger to take it away from Lori. I think that her defense team simply didn't obviously want to put her on the stand, and they probably didn't have much evidence to put on independently. They just cross-examined. I don't think the theory was, let's protect Chad necessarily. I think they were trying to protect Lori, and I do think they pointed the finger, and they did leave it up in the air. It was probably Chad and probably Alex. Lori wasn't there. She was away. She wasn't at the scene of the crime. So I don't think she's trying to protect him. I think she's just trying to protect herself.
Let's amplify that a little bit, Gigi, because I want to throw it to you. During the closing arguments from the defense, did they throw Chad under the bus at all, or where did they go when they were describing him?
Yeah, they threw him under the bus for sure, and I've heard rumors Lori was none too happy about that, by the way. That was something she did not want, was to throw Chad under the bus, from what I'm hearing. But what do? You're trying to do the best job for your client. She really doesn't have much of a defense. All of her text messages and this body cam video works against her so bad. All you can do is say, hey, before Chad, she was a great mom. We never had any problems. You look deeper into her life, she wasn't always a great mom. There's been issues since Tyler was a very little girl, but her kids were alive up until 2019, just a little before a year after she had met Chad Daybell. Everybody was dead.
Let's go to @AnnaMabelQ from Twitter. Can there be a partial guilty verdict, Terry? I.e., can Lori Vallow Daybell be found guilty only of the children's murders but not Tammy's? You know the answer to this one.
Absolutely, yes. And we could very well get a split verdict like that. Each and every count is determined separately by that jury. And if they have a verdict on each of the different counts and they don't have a verdict as it relates to Tammy, then we could come back with guilty for conspiracy and murder as far as the children are concerned. And we could see a not guilty as far as Tammy. That is by far the more difficult case.
And sometimes when we see that split verdict, that gives you an insight that this is a jury that carefully paid attention to the evidence. They didn't just throw a brush and say guilty or not guilty across the board. When we see those split verdicts, to me, it signifies not that a jury that would find Lori Vallow Daybell guilty across the board is not carefully considering the evidence. But when you see that split verdict, those are jurors who are really looking at this and saying the prosecution met their burden here, but not here. They carefully evaluated each piece of evidence. Gigi, Heather Strock from YouTube asks, where is Lori being held during these deliberations?
Actually, we haven't heard. They do have a holding cell here in the courthouse, and then, it's not too far from the jail, but I would imagine while they're deliberating, maybe they keep her here. It's easier to keep her in one spot. I'm going to try to find that out for you guys, but she is not in the courtroom right now. Her defense attorneys are. The prosecution is not.
Let me ask you one more question here, Gigi. This is from @CowgirlLamb from Twitter. And if you know this, how soon is someone sentenced in Idaho if found guilty? So presuming, let's say Lori Vallow Daybell is convicted today, do we know when her sentencing would be?
I've heard a couple of different options. I've heard no less than 2, no more than 45 days. But I've also heard that it could be late summer, just because there's like a pre-sentencing investigation that they may do. So those are the two things. We haven't got a clear answer on sentencing, but it seems like, too, it will be in Fremont County. Yeah, when she is sentenced. It will not be here in Boise.
And she would face, life in prison if she's ultimately convicted.
Right. Life without parole.
Life without parole. That's correct. All right. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to get more of your questions. Keep throwing them at us. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. We'll do our best to answer them here on the air. So any question you have, any comment you have about the Lori Vallow Daybell case, now is the time to ask. We'll be right back right after this.